These are the last few points of the first game of the Muehleisen-Haber match, which Dr. Muehleisen wins 21-10. These games were filmed by the photographic department of Memphis State University and produced by the Memphis Racquetball Association in January of 1972. The match took 2.5 hours to play. Some 350 spectators viewed the match from various parts of the United States. The game is being played by Dr. E.F. Bud Muehleisen, a San Diego dentist, and Paul Haber from Chicago, the national handball champion 5 out of 6 past years. Haber is 35 years old and been playing handball since he was 7 years old. This is the first point of the second game now of the match between Haber and Muehleisen, and the doctor rolls him out of serve. The doctor is 40 years old and began playing racquetball in 1968, just prior to winning the National Racquetball Championship. Prior to that time, Bud was a paddleball champion. Point for the doctor. He continued his form on the second game as he had played in the first game. He won the first game 21-10. And this is after a 2-minute rest. At this point, the doctor was wiping his glasses. A little delay in the game. This is a hinder ball. There was no place for the doctor to go. The referee called it a hinder and not an avoidable hinder. In the first game, Muehleisen kept the serve low and fast, and beginning in the second game, the ball began to get up a little too high. You saw the doctor wiping his hands on his pants. This is where he had touched Haber and gotten them damp. We wiped the ball off and began again. Very excellent serve. Jumped into the corner and went dead. Same serve. Doctor returned that one. Muehleisen caused 2 bounces on himself. In the third game, he has an occasion to ask Paul if he is not going to call any double bounces on himself, and he gets no reply at that time. It's a kill shot by Haber. Backhand. He calls a double bounce on it. Asked Haber at this point, "Are you going to call any on yourself, Paul?" Haber looks to the referee, and the referee did not see the double bounce. Haber lets him look at the ball. back in play. Paul's shot skipped in. Muehleisen served. The score remains pretty close all the way to the point where Haber has the advantage 16-15 later in this film. Usually it was just 1 point at a time until they reached that point. And then they stayed at 16-15 for a long time. There must have been 10 or 12 handouts at that point. These are two fine athletes who are perfect specimens of their games. I point out again that this film is shown at 3/4 of its normal speed, and you would have to imagine that you would be unable to see the ball at full speed. That's a flat rollout by the doctor. The first game he was deadly with that shot. The second game he hit fewer. And the third game there were just only 3 or 4 flat rollouts for the doctor. It's a short serve. It touched the doctor's leg, and Paul wanted the ball looked at and wiped off. That's a flat rollout, left hand kill by Haber. Haber, if you notice on his knees there, he stayed on his knees a good part of the match, and there are some shots in the first reel, shows the bloody knees that he slid around on. This is a tremendous left-hand kill, and Muehleisen knew that he had hit that ball too high. Haber was able to keep that ball in the right rear corner, where Muehleisen would have to backhand his ceiling shot, and on many occasions the ball went off of Muehleisen's racket straight to the ceiling and then to the floor, never making the front wall. Some of the spectators thought that the doctor had hit the ball, but the fact of the matter was that Haber put enough spin on the ball that when it hit the doctor's racket, it went straight up to the ceiling. Haber's asking how many timeouts he's had, and the referee tells him 1, and he calls for a timeout and towel. Now plays back in again. Haber down his knee. And then he rolls the ball out. This is a shot that Haber hit to the right front corner several times during the match, and there's no chance, no play. Dr. Muehleisen, if you notice, dropped the ball, and Haber refused to hand it to him, and Doctor had to walk back and pick up the ball. Haber has now asked for a towel to wipe up the floor with. These were delaying tactics that were used. We changed balls, we looked at the ball, we wiped up the floor, we changed gloves, we had torn gloves, we questioned the referee's calls. All of this would give Haber additional time to rest and recuperate. This is a discussion that ended up in Muehleisen's favor, and a few choice words to the referee by Mr. Haber. Down on his knees, slamming the ball back off the front wall, and then killing that right front corner with his left hand. Muehleisen rolls the ball to Paul, and he lets it go to the front wall for additional time. Little contact with the feet. Haber feels like that this ought to be called an avoidable. Decision was it was a hinder, and the game is on again. Screen ball. Play over. This serve is fantastic. It jumps twice, once when it hits the floor in front of the doctor, and then it hits the back wall. It comes off at a different angle. Muehleisen had said if he ever gets to hop the ball, that'll be it, but he doesn't intend to let him hop it. And he was able to do that in the first game. He kept the ball down low, where Paul was on the defensive with practically every shot. Prior to the match, the two contestants and the referee met in the tournament office, the three of them with the Sports Illustrated a reporter and photographer, and discussed the rules and the play of the game, and there were never two more nervous and sincere people at that point. Probably there were three, counting the referee. The referee had seen Muehleisen practice his serve to Haber's left side, and had determined after watching it that if Muehleisen stood too close to the left side wall, it would have to be called a screen in case he aced Haber. However, there was only one occasion during the match that the referee felt like the ball came close enough to merit a screen call. Right here, Haber felt like he needed a little hinder call out of the referee and didn't get it, and Muehleisen rolls the ball out. The nerves seemed to have left both players right after they got on the court in the first game. They settled down and began to play as the champions that they are. Got to be a hinder. One of the few calls that Paul didn't comment on. The ball moves so fast that it is just impossible to get out of the right way every time. And so the avoidable hinders in a normal game were called hinders, and the point was played over each time. This is a beautiful little forearm touch up the front that too short for Paul to get to. Now here he wants to look at his hand to see if it's wet. This was agreed upon that Haber would be able to look at the doctor's right hand, because that's the hand that's touching the ball, and Paul wants to be sure that it's dry. You notice he put the ball in his palm of his hand before he serves, but the ball remains dry throughout the match. Paul wants to see the ball again. This game, you can notice the serve that Muehleisen is just getting that ball too high. This is a hinder. That was an ace. A little short on the front there, and it's a handout, be Haber's serve. Paul crashing into the side walls and the back walls, but the instant that he hits the ball, he's back on his feet. $350 spectators at Memphis State's new $3.5 million complex. Beautiful facilities at the university. Grateful to Dr. C.C. Humphreys and the staff at Memphis State. This is one of the serves right down the lane that Muehleisen had practiced the day before. Wasn't too effective in the match. Here we've got water on the floor, and Haber wants to take a little time out to wipe it off. Some question whether these delaying tactics helped Haber any more than they did the doctor. At this point, both were getting fatigued, but it was only about the middle of the second game. A long ways to go yet. A backhand shot to the right corner. That's the same front wall, left side wall serve that he used so effectively in the first game, but it continued to say that the serve got away from him, got a little too high, and Haber was able to go from the defense to the offense. There's the serve that Haber used that hit the floor and hopped into the back wall and then hopped back out and kept Muehleisen completely off balance in that particular serve. Must have gotten 8 to 10 points for Paul. Relatively easy serve by the doctor. The screen ball, a little hinder, play over. At this point, I'll tell you that after the match was over, the third game was completed, the referee spoke to Paul Haber outside the court and complimented him on his play, suggested that possibly Haber was the greatest athlete he'd ever seen, and that he, as a referee, that he did the best job that he could do under the circumstances of this mixed game. Paul's reply to the referee was, "I am and you did." After other matches, reputation of Paul Haber is that he really celebrates after the matches are over. I understand that after this match was over that he went out with some of the Memphis Handball Association boys and he drank about 3 or 4 Coca-Colas and then asked to be excused and left the party for the evening. He said this was a physical endurance test that the likes of which he had never had before. Both truly great athletes. Perfect condition. Each have all the shots. Look at that recovery. Watch this next one. You notice Muehleisen plants his feet over on that left side, and that's where he planned to stand when he served straight down the left wall. But as I say, he didn't try that but about 3 times. There's a flat roll out by the doctor. Here's a little discussion on the ball and change of balls. Haber hops the ball out of the corner into Bud, and it's a point for Haber. This ball skipped. This ball was short. There's one of the few times that Bud came back down the left wall. Most of his serves was front and right wall. Ball skipped in, he had it. He talked to himself that he settled back down. He passed him, and Haber could not make the replay. This was a ball that hit the doctor, and he called a hinder. This is a play over. Good shot by the doctor. Little contact, and the hinder was called on that last point. We felt like that before the match that Haber would allow practically every ball to go to the back wall and that take the steam off of it. Then he would hit it. This is not so. If you notice right there, that was straight off the front wall, and it's been estimated ball travels 150, 200 miles an hour off that racket. Beautiful shot by the doctor. Haber skips it into the right front corner. Uh-oh, here's a hinder. Muehleisen was trying to get out from that corner, and Haber was not watching, walked right into him. Referee, as stated before, he felt like this was a action that was moving too fast for the hinder to react to it, and allowed only a hinder and not an avoidable. Seems Dr. Muehleisen is now playing a little bit harder, a little better effect with his shots. And then Paul takes the wind out of him with a rollout. Whoop. Paul wanted a hinder here. The referee didn't give it, and then Muehleisen skipped in, and Paul had a few words to say as he walked back to serve, and then he decides to tell the referee what a hinder is. There is a long scoreless stretch when the score gets to be 16 Haber, 15 Muehleisen. And eventually in this second game, Paul is able to pull it off at a 21-16. 21-15 was the score on the second game, 21-15. After having lost the first one, 21-10. Now on this play, this will end up in a hinder, and it's the last, next to last serve. This is the hinder. The next serve, Paul makes it, and the score is 21-15. The game is over, tied 1-1, waiting on the third game. This is the third and final game of the match between Paul Haber and Dr. Muehleisen in Memphis, Tennessee. Muehleisen won the first game, 21-10. Haber won the second, 21-15. Muehleisen skips this ball into the floor. Haber is now serving. The second game, Muehleisen came back with a lot of hop on the ball, as you saw in that last point. He continually keeps the doctor in this backhand position and continually digs them out of the corners. Haber is now serving, and he's spinning the ball and jumps and hops. If you notice that serve, it was an ace. Here's a kill shot that Muehleisen returns, and Haber does again. And a backhand flip. Muehleisen can't seem to put it away, and Haber puts a left-hand kill into the right corner. Then the doctor skips into the floor. Haber now serving. See the ball jump and hop into the doctor. It was one of many times this occurred. This game was billed as Mr. Clean Meets the Devil. Some call it hands against the racket. Here's a fantastic recovery. But he can't seem to keep it going, and the ball skips in the floor. Dispute. But the ball was good, and it had skipped. Haber is serving again. Here's that same serve, keeping him into the corner. Good pass shot. Haber wanted a screen ball there, and the referee determined it was a pass. Side out. High lob got Muley in the backcourt. Muehleisen skips another one in. It was said that the ball would determine the outcome of the game, in that it would be a fast bounce that Haber would be accustomed to, and Muehleisen felt that he thought that ball was short at that point, and it was ruled a good serve. Muehleisen would have the advantage of the 17-inch racket. That's a long serve. Beautiful kill by Paul Haber. 35-year-old Paul Haber with 28 years of experience of playing handball, playing a 40-year-old dentist, Dr. Bud Muehleisen, San Diego. It was estimated that this ball, when it was hit by the racket by the doctor, was traveling at least 200 miles an hour. This was a situation where Paul thought he had bounced the ball too many times and he served a bad serve. To get his composure back and his timing, continually keeps Muehleisen off guard and serving into that backhand corner. The overhand slam went into the floor. Muehleisen knew it was a bad shot. He was a little disgusted with himself at this point. I remind you again that these films are being shown at 25% reduction in speed. At this point with the ball on the floor, it was a timeout, a towel timeout. It's a short serve. A little discussion with the referee. Muehleisen throws the ball and hits Haber. Little pushing going on. Backhand slap and a hinder call. Ball is skipped. Haber seemed to anticipate every shot being in the right place at the right time. In the first game, Muehleisen ran the score to 9-0 and finally ended at 21-10. In the second game, the score will reach 16-15. And Muehleisen's backhand game seems to completely go apart. He's missing sealing shots and kill shots in the first game that he literally rolled out. This ball hit Muehleisen. He called it a hinder. Haber wanted the referee to inspect the ball. In this third game, Haber runs the score to 17-0 before the doctor is able to score his first point. That was a long serve, hit the back wall. Short serve. Serve doubles. Haber's serve is short. Ball hits the doctor. Hinder is called. Haber wanted the referee to look at the ball, wanted to change it, and one of the agreements before the match started was that anytime that Paul wanted a ball change, he could have it. He felt that hitting the ball with a racket would knock it out of round. Also, Paul was permitted anytime he wanted a glove change to change gloves. And one other concession was that he would be permitted to look at the doctor's right hand. The doctor is left-handed. He would be permitted to look at his right hand to see if it were wet, because he would be touching the ball with that hand. He slams the wall after he skips the ball in. Two or three occasions Haber did look at the doctor's hand, and they were dry. The doctor just does not perspire like most athletes. A flat rollout from about 3 feet away from the front wall. So hinder. One of the things to be remembered by spectators is that this ball is moving so fast, and the players have to move equally as fast, and what would normally be an avoidable hinder, in the referee's opinion, turns out to be a simple hinder because of the speed of the play. One of the few ceiling shots that Haber missed. You'll notice the doctor seemed to have hit the wall there before he hit the ball. Short serve. Ball hopping and jumping. Haber keeps him back on his backhand. He's down in the corner in the floor. That one he couldn't handle. This ball hits the doctor. He calls a hinder. Little momentum going now for Dr. Muehleisen. This ball looked as though it might have skipped to the doctor, and Haber wants to change gloves. Now with new gloves, we're ready to go again. Watch this recovery. Bounced off of the wall and was back in position. The ball didn't bounce. This is an ace serve. And a short serve. Remembering his doubles, he previously served a safe one, and then he nonchalantly hits it into the floor. He couldn't believe that shot. Tremendous effort. Doctor rolls it out with a backhand to the right front wall. Point for the doctor. Haber wanted a hinder there, but the referee did not allow it. A little discussion took place at that point. Most discussions were between Haber and the referee. This match lasted about 2.5 hours. Haber, you see, calls a timeout and slouches into the side wall. Tremendous energy being expended. Here's his famous lob to the back. Ball skipped. Muehleisen questioned the referee, accepted the decision. Haber is ready to serve. Short serve. As I said, the film has shown a 25% reduction in speed because at full speed you would be unable to see the ball. Paul rippled off of his racket to the left front wall, side wall, and then played out, and Haber was out of position and did not make an attempt. This is a good shot, and Haber questions the referee in his own way and had a few words to say, but the decision stood. The ball was good. Backhand shot hit the ceiling and then down to the floor, never making the front wall. Many times Haber forced Muehleisen into this situation. Backhand stabs off of the floor on his knees, still on his knees. Fantastic recovery and ability. Ball was short. Later, Paul describes this as probably the most exciting game that he'd ever played on the handball, that had ever been played on a handball court. The outcome was to be determined on whoever controlled the ball, and the doctor felt that his ability with the racket would give him the little attack from the rear. It was called a hinder, and this was called a short serve. At this point, the doctor was beginning to lose a little of his cool, and head against the wall. The doctor still slamming at him. This is a rollout shot. A little timeout was called by Muehleisen. If you notice, that ball jumped in, but the doctor slammed it back past him. This is a hinder. And here the doctor calls 2 bounces on Haber, but Haber didn't admit to it, and referee didn't call it, and play continues. And Muehleisen goes at the referee pretty good for one of the few times in the match that he vocally let loose. Very difficult to see double bounces as fast as this ball travels. Here we had contact, and the referee determined that it didn't interfere with the play. Haber had a few choice words. At this point, the referee was the villain on both sides. Both men awfully tired. And here we go with a little discussion. Ball skipped, and Haber threw it up to the referee. The game was a little sloppy at this point, and both had to regroup and take stock, and get back into the game. In the ball. Now this is a shot that you couldn't see that hit the doorknob in the back. And there was no decision prior to the game that there would be any court hinders. And in view of that, it was determined that everything was in play, and this was awarded in the doctor's favor. Moments after this, the ball will hit the mullion between the glass and the plaster, and it'll come straight down, and Haber won't be able to play it. There'll be 2 calls in favor of Muehleisen with reference to court hinders. Immediately following the ball hitting the door, the referee announced that everything in court was in play, and within 1 point after that, the ball hit the mullion and came straight down. Here he touched him with a racket. Haber wants a hinder because he touched him with a racket. The referee asked the doctor if he did touch him. He said he did. Point was taken back and play resumed. The score is now 20-16. Muehleisen got out of his way that time. A little pushing going on. 20-16, 16-20. Muehleisen skips it in. Game match point. Doctor runs right into the Haber. The referee calls an avoidable hinder. All the time Haber's asking for it, the referee's already declared it. He shakes hands with the doctor. The match is over. Haber has won this game 21-16. The first game he lost 21-10. The second game he won 21-15. The third game he wins 21-16. The game ends on an avoidable hinder, giving Haber the 21st point for the game match. Conference with the players, it was agreed to have a new ball anytime he wanted it. And here's his glove being shown to the referee as being torn. You'll see the thumb seam is torn when he turns his hand around. The one other thing that was unusual was that he had the right to inspect Dr. Muehleisen's right hand anytime that he wanted to. It's ungloved, and there was some question of whether or not there would be perspiration on this hand and get the ball wet, but it never was the case during the match. The doctor did not perspire did not interfere with the ball. Look at this ball, comes straight off the front wall, and Haber throws it to the ceiling and takes the ball with a left backhand shove underneath him. And then he puts it on the ceiling again. It's a tremendous effort by Paul. Just how many times can you recover after that? There's a short serve. 12 is now serving 19. Haber slams the glass after losing that point, and he runs up in the back of the doctor, called a hinder, then a short serve against the doctor, and the score is 13-19. Haber makes a great save on his stomach, slams it back at Haber, and he's back in time to recover. Another shot with his head against the wall. And remember, these films are being shown to you at 25% reduction in the normal speed. At normal speed, you would not see the ball. Now Haber rolls it out, and the crowd gets a big thrill from that shot. And we're getting close to the point. He called body contact at that point, and it was not allowed. Muehleisen's waiting to serve. The referee tells Mr. Haber to play ball. In just a second, Muehleisen will. There's the shot right there that hit the doorknob and bounced out of play. And in the absence of any court hinders decided upon prior to the match, the referee ruled that everything in the court was in play. And the point was awarded to Muehleisen. And in just a second, you'll see that ball hit the mullion and come straight down. And the request for a hinder was not given. An avoidable hinder was not given here. Just a tremendous effort by these two athletes. The score is now 15 serving 20. Concentration, Muehleisen. Now he touched him with a racket on the back there, and Muehleisen wants to stop the play, and he hit him with the racket. Referee determined that it was not a sufficient interference to affect the game, and he should not have stopped. And Dr. Muehleisen is now serving. It's 15-20. He's lost his footing a little bit. Both players getting tremendously fatigued, and here's the ball hit the mullion, came straight down, and point was ruled in favor of Dr. Muehleisen. Paul does a little extra pushing here, and Muehleisen serves over. Score is now, oh, he made a bad shot and he knew that. 20 game point serving. Here's the avoidable hinder. The doctor could have moved out of the way and did not. Paul is asking for and got an avoidable hinder call. Muehleisen cannot believe what he is hearing. Haber walks off the court. The score 21-16 match and game, and he's received by his wife outside the door and his many friends who followed him here from Chicago. Tremendous athlete. Both of these gentlemen were tremendous on the court. "350 spectators were well pleased with what they saw on that court at Memphis State that day. Had the doctor been able to keep the ball low as he had in the first game, it might have been a different story. Gives you a different perspective, and you see how agile these two men are. Now we're going back up into the gallery. Muehleisen skips in. Paul is able to keep Doc back in the right corner with that backhand shot of Muehleisen's that he has a lot of trouble with. And he gingerly puts that in the corner, and Haber kicks it. He should have been up there, he thought. This lob takes Muehleisen off of his feet. Back in the corner again. Estimation of the speed of this ball is anywhere from 160 to 200 miles an hour when it's hit by that racket. And the thing that surprised most of the players who talked about it was that Haber is hitting that ball off of the front wall, and we had thought that he would let this ball go to the back wall, take the steam off of it, but you notice he's catching a good many of these just flat off the front wall. This shot with that left hand up in that front right corner gets the nod of approval from Doc Muehleisen, and it was a tremendous shot, and one that he used several times in the match. Here it is again, but this time it didn't work. It was a little short. Here's the crowd watching. Putting it in his left hand, but Haber throws that ball up on the ceiling. You notice his hands, how he twists it and turns that ball around. On his knees where we had to stop the match twice to wipe blood from the floor. He was on his knees constantly. Haber thought that was a skip ball, but was not. Now the score is 3-12, and Haber's on his knees again. Catching that ball straight off the front wall. And he taps him on the seat with his racket that he's done the shot again, and that is out. The score is 12-3, and that was a hinder, and the referee called it an avoidable hinder, followed by a serve. And Muehleisen skips in, looks at his racket. He blasts it out. The score is 3 serving 13, and Haber puts one on the ceiling, back in that back right corner, and this was about one of 8 times that Muehleisen was unable to return that ball out of that back right corner. This match lasted for well over 2 hours and showed the condition that these men were in. Tremendous shot back in that right front corner again, and Muehleisen nods his head. Now this is an unavoidable hinder, and Haber was of the opinion that we should have had a call there. Now he was on the floor and in the way of Muehleisen, and another unavoidable hinder was called. It's just a hinder. Muehleisen slams it, gets Haber completely out of position on that one, and goes around him. Short serve, and the second serve coming. Ball hit Muehleisen, and it play over. Muehleisen was in Paul's way, and Paul again thought that there ought to have been a avoidable hinder called against the doctor, but it was not at this point. Haber slams into the wall and many times during this match. Impossible to see how he can hit the wall and be back in position again. Got that on a second bounce, and then he put it away to take him out of service, and Muehleisen is serving. Score is now 5, serving 15, and he skipped it in. And watch the heads move, and you see the concentration of the gallery. You want to go up, and there we go. 5, serving 15. Back in that right back corner. This is a good shot by the doctor. He slammed it right up in the right front corner. Good backhand. 6, serving 15. 7, serving 15, and you notice in some of the pickups that the other 17 inches of that racket is a real advantage for the doctor. This is called a screen ball. Service is now 8, serving 15, and we serve that over. Hit the ball right back down the alley for point. 9, serving 15. Tremendous left-hand save, and he left his body twice, but this one doesn't make it. Body left the floor and through the air. This was a whirly-dirly ball in the back, and it went too many walls for Haber, and he couldn't handle it. Now we're taking a shot through the glass in the back door again, and you can see the different way the doctor's hitting the ball. This game compared to the first game, it's estimated he must have rolled 15 out in the first game, and maybe he got 6 in the second game, and probably 3 or 4 in the final game. He hit that ball right on the button, and Muehleisen nods his head as a good shot. Start to play again. Right here, Haber was right. It should have been called a hinder. It was not. Play continued, and Muehleisen skipped the ball in. Due to the length of the racket, extra length, Haber had to give more ground to his opponent than he normally would give to a handball player. Didn't seem to affect his timing. There's another lob to the back right that Muehleisen was unable to get, and then an ace serve. And you notice how he's making that ball hop in that corner. He rolls out the final point of the second game. Now this is the beginning of the third game after about a 10-minute break. And Haber comes back with very much confidence, and here's that shot back in that right rear corner again. He had Muley back there a good bit of this third game. This one you see the jump and hop. Muehleisen completely misjudged it, and then the next ball, it jumped on him. And he's got him on the floor, and watch this recovery. that one got away from him, it's about all you can do to get two of those back. This ball went past in a hurry. Haber felt like he should have had a screen on that, but referee felt he was out of position at that time. Muehleisen is getting fatigued, as is Haber. You can see the fatigueness in the way the ball is being hit compared to the first game. Haber makes his big run and actually accumulates 17 points to 0 before the doctor is able to make his points. The ball is coming that Haber is serving is skipping and jumping. Now that hinder was called on that, and looked as if Haber was going to hit from one position, then he moved back into the line which Muehleisen was moving, and a simple hinder was called, and had a little discussion on that one. This overhead shot was a poor shot, and Muehleisen knew it, put his hands on his hips in disgust. Very important point that he just missed. This was a short serve. Here's a little pushing instant going on, and then a little backhand slap. Over-exaggerated hinder. And this slam into the floor was a crucial time for Muehleisen making his move now. It's 0 serving 17. Now we moved up to 2 serving 17, and little close-up shots of their bodies and feet to show the agility that these men had. 18 serving 2. Haber misses it. It's 2 serving 18. And Haber slams into the side wall, and point for the doctor. Racquetball players had high hopes at this point that the doctor was going to make a successful move into this match. Score is now 9 serving 18. Haber's in this period of time is changing the ball, asking for a towel for to wipe off the floor, a towel to wipe off the ball. Changed gloves twice, and in a minute you'll see that just after changing gloves, one of his gloves turns up torn, which calls for another timeout. Score is now 18 serving 17, and they've just had a glove change. He got by Haber with that forearm drive. Haber was a little out of position, unable to get to the back court. Now he's got Serve working for him pretty good. Short serve, and that's was 18-9, and he's hit into the floor. Haber serving. What a tremendous save, but Muehleisen puts it away. Haber hits the ball to the ceiling and crashes to the floor and back in position. First game in which Muehleisen wins 21-10. Muehleisen is able to keep that ball low and fast in the first game, which he was not able to do in the second and third games. Haber makes a tremendous backhand save. Muehleisen skips the ball in and calls it against himself. And now the point is 3-0. That ball is coming awfully low and awfully fast. Muehleisen, everybody would be able to notice how low he's hitting it. Notice in the second and third games that he's not able to accomplish this. Prior to the match, there was a player and referee conference in which hinders were discussed and screen serves. This is some of the crowd that witnessed the match at 350 people at Memphis State. Now we're into the second game, and Muehleisen has won the first match, the first game 21-10, and he's starting in on the second. Haber's down on the floor again as he found himself constantly. He hits a crotch serve to even the score 1-1 in the second game. Haber's able to hop that ball with his hand, and this is called a hinder. And Haber was discussing how much room he should be given to play the ball. In the player-referee discussion, there was one omission, and that is court hinders, and these hinders were not discussed, and you'll see where it comes into play in the third game when the ball hits the back door knob and bounces out of play, and right after that the ball hits the mullion between the glass and the plaster and drops down, and both of these shots are against Haber. This is a backhand save, if you notice that, and he stays down, and Muehleisen thought he got it on a second bounce, but he did not. Haber's leading at this point 6-1 and skipping in 7-1. Right hand shot to the corner does not make it, and the service is out. Muehleisen is hitting an overhead slam. If you notice the ball, that Muehleisen is not able to get it down low like he was in the first game. Score is now 2 serving 7.